You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Oh yes, you know Zack Phillips means business when he shows up with a brand spanking new haircut. It's the Thursday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga, Zack Phillips, Philtov. What is the occasion, my friend?
Off to Portugal tonight. I guess like 11. I think it got pushed back actually, which is always a good start when your flight a day in advance gets pushed back already. Supposed to leave at 11:45. Now it's 11:55. But regardless, off tonight to Portugal for 2 weeks. I'm pumped. Get away. Get to. I'm not even getting to the sun though. That's the only thing. Like, escape to the sun. Well, like there's sun here. Like I'm not escaping to the sun. You know what I mean? Like I'm just going to Europe.
Is this your first time going to Europe?
I went to Sweden and Finland when I was 12 to play in a hockey tournament, and I went to England for a week one time.
I'll say this. You'll have a newfound appreciation for that continent once you come back. We're going to have the same conversation, and it won't be the same sun to you anymore. I'll tell you that. Are you flying to Lisbon, though?
No. I'm flying to Porto. So that's the first spot. Lisbon's on the way. I think we've got like Algarves and Madeira, and I don't even know. There's a whole list of things that I'm not privy to that information, but I will be there.
You are going to be absolutely blown away, my friend. Hope you guys have a fantastic time. And obviously, I summoned Zach before he went away to get his thoughts on this Maple Leafs offseason thus far. Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and third in the world. I witnessed the softest thing I've seen maybe since the Maple Leafs last played last night. So I play co-ed softball. It was the first game of the season. I show up. You live down the road from me. Beautiful skies, great weather. It's humid. There's mosquitoes everywhere. You get that feel of summertime softball in Toronto. And third inning hits, and the other team felt quote-unquote uncomfortable by lightning 3,000 miles away. A couple of them dashed to their vehicles, sat in their vehicles. I heard the door thump. Meantime, my team was drinking pops on a wood bench under a tree. I was swinging a bat, taking warm-up swings. Anyways, they called the game while there was a game happening directly across from us at another field, and they just carried on with life. But uncomfortable is how they felt.
So, teach their own. Context for everybody. I live like far enough from Nick or close enough to Nick that I could like throw a baseball to him. Now, I don't know where in proximity you were playing, but I spent the entire night outside last night. I saw no signs of storms or any of this. I had no weather updates that anything was going on. That is taking a page out of the book of somebody who might have just recently switched cities and numbers over the last 4 days.
You stole the words out of my head and my mouth, because that was a transition I was going to make. Speaking of soft is the way I was going to describe it. I don't know how many people, I'm not kidding, how many people have texted me in the last 2 days asking me how I feel. Am I okay? And I mean, are we talking about Pontus Holmberg? Are we talking about Holmberg? These people clearly don't know me. I have never felt freer in my life than I have being a Leafs fan in the last couple days. So stop texting me. Could not care less. Mitch Marner's in Vegas. But how did you take the news, Zach?
I kind of got the similar reaction that you did from people where it was like, how are you? What do you think about this? How are you handling it? Like, does this bother you? And it's like, I really don't care. In a lot of ways, like I think it's pretty freeing. I think this is something we've been saying a direction we've been saying the team needs to go for a while here now. You can't have the 4. You can't have the 4. Okay, now you're finally forced to not have the 4. He's gone. That's it. So I don't care. The only things that bothered me, I'll just say it. Like some of the stuff did irk me a little bit. Knowing that he was talking to Vegas players at the Four Nations, I know players do that, but you didn't have to say it publicly. Like, it's pretty known that players go and talk to other guys, but, like, you kind of just threw a dagger where it's like everybody looks at this guy and says he checks out when it gets tough, and then he basically said, I was already halfway into another city, and I was asking the guys from the city I was going to what it's like to live there. And so was my wife. And then it's like, okay, well, there's that piece of it. And then also saying, I decided and told the Leafs in the summer, I'm riding it out to the end of the contract. It's a little bit annoying. I don't know. Everybody has the right. He negotiated the no move clause. That's all fair, and like that's part of business. It is what it is. But I don't know, Nick. Like, it bothered me a little bit to just know he pretty much went to them and was like, you can't do anything. You can't move me. You can't get rid of me unless I okay it. And I'm staying here right till the final day. And they got Nick Waugh, so like, ooh, he gave them a bone. But like, he basically said, you're fucked. Deal with it. I'm staying here till the end. It just irked me a little bit how it all went down, but at the same time, based on his history, not surprising.
I'm trying to sift through everything that was threatened just in the last month. It's July 3rd. I was told mid-July he was going to make an announcement on where he's signing, hold the entire market hostage. That didn't happen. I was told he was going to sign a 4-year deal. That didn't happen. I was told he was going to hold meetings for all these teams to get together. That didn't happen. And he's been rumored to go to Vegas for a year. It happens. Great fit. I said this on the show the other day. He looks very calm, chilled, cool. Like it's a perfect market for him. He doesn't have to be the guy. You even look at the treatment. He's being treated like a god there. Like, you're a big Vegas guy. He's on the cover of the Paris Hotel and Ferris and Planet
Caesars.
Hollywood. And again, I have to compliment Vegas because they know how to make people feel good. Here in Toronto, 100%. We don't. We treat people like crap, or we're not great. The media sucks. No, but jokes aside, I think they know how to entertain a player. I mean, we've noticed that from Mark Stone to Jack Eichel to Mitch Marner. It's a perfect fit, and I genuinely do wish him the best. I just, like you, a bit sour how it ended, because I think a lot of Leafs Nation, and I know you're the producer of the sheet. You guys do a great job. You put a clip out last night that caught my attention with Shayna Goldman, who does fantastic work, about, I guess she was extending to the fact that she was waiting for a Mitch Marner heel turn. The heel turn started in 2019. Remember that whole negotiation, Zach, where he threatened to go to Columbus and Switzerland and play hardball? Mm-hmm. This started way back when negotiations with the previous administration, they bent over backwards for these guys. That's when it started to me.
Yeah, it's pretty common, right, for restricted free agents to threaten to go to Switzerland coming out of their entry-level deals, like to leave the best league in the world to go play in Switzerland. That happens frequently. I would agree with you. That's kind of when it started. It starts with that. And then, look, it goes beyond speculation with these things. There are direct quotes from members of his family in articles with, like, The Athletic saying, why isn't Mitch being considered for the captain? Like, there was stuff like that was just going on that damaged, whether it damaged reputation or turned people against him. Regardless, that was the heel turn. It's not him leaving for Vegas. It started when he basically decided, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with the fans of this city. He wasn't battling the organization at that point. He was battling the people who pay for tickets, buy jerseys, show up to the rink, and cheer for him. That's what started to sour the relationship. That's when the heel turn took place. It's not leaving in free agency for the Vegas Golden Knights. He turned this relationship sour early on. And, like, to be honest, I mean, the other part of that clip was that people were too mean to him and everything. I will never condone some of the reported shit that's gone on to him. That stuff is unacceptable, and fans take things too far. Whether it's, harassing him if that's what he's saying was happening, or throwing garbage on his lawn. I don't know. Like, these are the things that he was saying happened. That stuff's way too far and is way over the line by fans. No matter what city you're in, no matter what the player does, all that kind of stuff. But just in general, to say that the fans were too mean to him, I mean, you go to war with the fan base and then you don't show up when it matters. What do you think is going to happen? Like, the lack of production combined with you fighting for every dollar and having your dad publicly, not speculated, publicly go out and be like, Mitch needs to be the captain or needs to be in consideration, like, that stuff starts to turn people on you regardless. It's just like there's no way he could walk away from this questioning, how did this go sour? You know how it went sour. You were a massive part of it, and so was your camp. And if that's how you wanted it to go, that's fine. So be it. But don't question, why did this happen?
Weirdly, my lasting memory will be the double shot block against the Boston Bruins in the playoffs. What was that, 18? I don't know what's transpired since then, but I hate to say it. Mike
Mine will
Babcock
be
called
a
this.
backhand no-look pass through the neutral zone. Or a flip over the glass in COVID against Montreal.
What's that video tribute look like next season when Marner's Golden Knights come to Toronto?
They should just play like his interview clips, like or like God's here, or just not taking accountability, or a quick clip of Sheldon Keefe walking back his comments where he criticized him. Marner puck over the glass, not picking up Pasternak on the back check in overtime. How about we go ultimate heel turn? I don't know. Fuck it. Like, flip this around. You want to turn this into like selling tickets in WWE? On his way out, just fucking boot him in the ass. Like just flip it around. And if you're gonna go all the way and sell tickets here, like just throw everything into it. You got those clips up there on the montage, or just don't even play anything, and then just. You give Max Domi number 16 to start next season. Turn this thing around.
You produce a nice show over there, and it's funny. You texted me yesterday. I put out a tweet. I was in a mood yesterday afternoon, and I tweeted out a picture of Max Domi in his London Knights jersey. He wore number 16, for those of you who don't know. I think that would be the biggest heel tactic of all time if the Leafs granted 100%. Domi that number right away. Right away. Don't even wait. Announce it tomorrow.
No. Yeah. Or, well, either that, or if we want to go, again, like follow this whole WWE production, like they don't announce it, they don't say anything, and then when they do the player announcements next season, like the lights shut off, everything goes out, and then they say, like, from Toronto, Ontario, number 16, Max Domi comes running out, lights go on, everybody goes nuts. That would be a way to do it. But that was nuts timing, by the way. I said it on the sheet. And I like monitor Twitter during the show to see if any news comes through. So I said it on the show. I'm like, I think Max Domi should come out wearing number 16. And like 45 seconds later, like it wasn't enough time for you to have heard me and tweeted it. So like there was no chance you copied it or took it from me. But it was like, refresh, tweet from you, Max Domi wearing number 16. I'm like, holy shit.
We're in simpatico, man, and I was also curious to hear from Brad Treliving. To you, did he look sort of like agitated in the way he sort of broke down everything surrounding Marner? For me, there was like a sense of relief in his face that the whole process was over, and he knows he's going to take some heat. But I think he was so strapped with what kind of business he can conduct. But he seemed like somebody who wasn't defeated, but like agitated by the process a bit.
Yeah, he did seem a little bit annoyed. He seemed pretty forthright in the way he kind of approached it and just said, like, effectively across all the different shows he went on, he pretty much said it the same way. And it was like, we've known that he was going to be doing this. We tried our best. And, like, he seemed like the kind of GM who just got put in handcuffs, had no option, and is now watching a player and his agent go around and basically say, oh, we told them we would have been traded, as if like Treliving had an option and he's now being painted with this picture of he's the guy who didn't trade Mitch Marner, like he had a choice. Like, I think that's where some of that agitation comes in. When did Treliving come in? 2 years ago. When did Mitch say in his press conference things started to go south and he was going to look in a different direction? 2 years ago. Last summer, he said that he decided, I'm going to go the end of this contract, I'm going to test free agency. And it's like that stuff starts to pile up where optically it looks bad on Treliving, and I think he knows that right now, that a large portion of this fan base or like a decent portion of the fan base is going to look at him and be like, oh, this guy didn't trade him and we only got Nick Waugh because of the way Marner and his team are now parading this information around. And I think that that's probably frustrating, and that's probably leading him to go into the media. That's my take on it, at least, Nick, where it's just like, it feels like he's like, publicly, you're making me look like the guy who did the wrong thing here.
Exactly.
When in reality, I had no option.
Yeah, it's the PR battle too. Like, I don't know if you've seen this the last couple of days. Marner took less to become a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. It's like, here we go again, man. Just, it's narrative control 101 from that camp. Meantime, remaining cap space for the Maple Leafs, just under $5 million to be precise, $4,983,081 per Puckpedia. So we'll talk a lot about that over the next couple weeks at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. The following segment is brought to you by our good friends over at Greta Bar YYZ, the ultimate hangout spot in Toronto. Whether you're catching the big game, diving into some classic arcade action, or grabbing some unreal street food, Greta Bar's got you covered. For more info, head on over to gretabar.com. That's gretabar.com, 590 King Street West. Greta Bar, let the games begin. So, Zach, what have you made of the early going here of free agency? Your boy Vinny Lettieri brought in yesterday, and I mentioned this on Twitter, Italian contingent through the roof with, I guess, Matthias Machelli is like 1/8 Italian as well. Pizzetta's in the mix, Lettieri. Like, we're feeling good about life right now.
Vinny, I hate the name you just
My
throw.
cousin Vinny.
Like, they bring back who was it? This is your bad host, hockey analyst, whatever. Travis Boyd. They bring him back. They throw all these guys in. Look, Leafs Nation, I saw reading these things and, like, going in the comments and being like, what the hell is Treliving doing? Like, why are we adding these? Like, this is going to make the difference. Guys, let's just take a break here for a second. A lot of these guys are going to be AHL players, Marley's guys. There'll be guys who come to camp. Maybe some of them just get, it's just not – Treliving's not expecting Vinny Lettieri to fill Mitch Marner's spot first-line right wing. Like, that's not happening. I know Alberga was pumped. More Italian guys coming here to Toronto. That's not what's happening. Like, these are just depth pickups that are added. They're guys who could compete for a fourth-line spot. They're guys who could be called up in case of injury and fill into spots or push guys up the lineup. Like, that's all it is. As far as the free agency goes, I'll be honest. I mean, the guys that we wanted were off the board before you even had a chance. Marchand returned to Florida. Bennett returned to Florida. Ekblad. I mean, we're seeing a trend here. Return to Florida. Those are the guys that we looked at where I was like, hey, those are the pieces that we'd like to target. They went back to their spots. Nick Ehlers is still out there. Seems unlikely that that's a fit here. I don't know from either side that would be a fit anyways. No. Who knows? And it's just like, the one thing I said to you the last time I was on with you was my goal for Treliving would just be, don't make the mistake. It's not about going out and making sure you got to go sign this guy and that's the goal of this free agency. It was like, don't make the mistake. Don't sign the David Clarkson contract. Don't lock yourself up and screw yourself over and take up cap space that you don't need to. And to this point right now, I feel like Brad Treliving's done a pretty good job of that. Pagnotta told us when he came on, like, you're going to have to explore trade market. Matthias Machelli, take a swing. Take a chance on a guy who's put up almost 60 points before. Now he's going to join Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, however he slots in here, and he's going to have an opportunity to maybe showcase what he could do. Like, you're taking chances on guys, and I don't think Treliving's done. And the other thing is, he didn't lock up all of his capital in the first couple of days here right now. He's going to go explore. Like, we even see that with Pontus Holmberg leaving. $1.55 million. You don't think the Leafs could have paid that? They deemed him to be a lower value. He thought he could get more. They said, okay, see ya. Like, he's just not spending money he doesn't feel like he has to right now, and I think that's important. You're not going above and beyond to retain players or get guys from free agency to come here just for the sake of getting players. Like, I think he's done a pretty good job right now managing the assets and the capital he has.
Frankly, I'm disappointed in the calculator community. I thought there'd be more uproar about Alex Steeves leaving Toronto. but it just hasn't been there to the magnitude I thought. And I think he went to Boston's organization too. Like shit, him and Minton on the line next year, maybe.
Did he? Did he go to Boston?
I think so. But yeah,
you know he's gonna score one goal, and it's gonna be like we should have never let this guy go, and then he'll go back down and he'll.
There we go. 09 Max in the chat. I like Steve's. Yeah, there's a couple people in the chat are big Steve's fans, but I noticed that too. I thought there'd be a bit more uproar, but I guess the biggest signing right now is Michael Pezzetta, 2 years, a total of $1.575 million. I'm a little concerned the way he's been talking, and full disclosure, I tried to get Pezzetta on the show today, and maybe tomorrow that happens. But the way he's talking sounds like a guy who is going to be on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know what's been relayed to the Pezzetta camp, but if he's... I talked about this with Dave. Like, best case scenario, and I think you would agree, for Pezzetta is probably AJ Greer. If he can play that type of role and be that effective fourth liner, I think you're in good footing. But to me, at least, and I know there could be some change over the next couple months here leading into next season, he's like a fringe swing guy who elevates if somebody's banged up. That's it.
He's like... He's going to effectively be, in my opinion, like... Ryan Reaves, but younger and faster. And I'm not saying he's like the big heavyweight, but what I'm saying is if you want the tough guy in your lineup, Reaves can't play anymore. We saw that at the end of last season. Like, love the guy, love what he did here. I liked the fact that they brought him in the first place because I thought he would be a good guy to throw into the locker room and just kind of bring guys together, that kind of stuff. Like, we've heard how cliquey this locker room is. If you're going to throw a guy in there to fix that, fine. Okay, now you've done that. It's over. Reaves can't play. So now you want a guy who can be the fighter. Sure, Pezzetta can come up here, maybe spots in here and there. Again, like last year he played, I think, 25 games with the Habs. Like, he's going to be in and out of the lineup. I doubt he's a guy who's even possibly with the team full-time, maybe again, like you mentioned, like with the Marlies, but it's one of those guys where you're not paying him very much, so if it doesn't work, what does it matter? And then if it does work, as you just said, like AJ Greer, I think is a very, very good comparison. He's not shown necessarily what AJ Greer had prior to joining Florida, but like if he gets in the right spot or the system, or he has a coach who can maybe get him in the right direction, like maybe that's the thing that turns him around. Maybe that's the thing that gets him going a little bit, and he's a serviceable fourth liner. Like, those things are fine. He does have legs. He's got okay hands. Like, he could do some of that stuff. Hasn't really shown too much of it consistently, at least, throughout this point of his career, but, like, he's just a guy who's going to be around. I don't think Leafs fans, at least, should look too much into it.
You know what's interesting, and the one thing I've noticed with Paul Maurice the last 3 years of getting to the Stanley Cup final is his innate ability to get the most out of his players. And if you look at the various iterations of that fourth line in Florida, my boy Zach Dalpe, who finished this year banged up, played in the American Hockey League the majority of his career, was a guy consistently playing on that fourth line in the first year when they lost to Vegas. And he knew his role, and he played his role. So that leads me to believe a coach is able to extract the most out of a player and put them in the scenario to be successful. AJ Greer, another example. Nosek, another example. So I think it's important to bring up, we even look at these names, and we think they're going to be different, guys like Yarncroke and Kampf. I think there's a way to coach these guys to the best of their abilities. Like, you got to remember, these are professionals. They've played in the NHL. They have experience. I think part of this is on Craig Berube, quite frankly.
Yeah, 100%. I think you look at some of the guys that have made transitions from one team to another, and you sit there and you say, well, how come that guy couldn't do it here? It's not just Paul Maurice. It's a lot of different situations. You look around, whether it's cup-winning teams that have success go far, and it's a third line or a fourth line guy who all of a sudden plays above their capabilities or where they were before. It happens a lot of times when guys leave the Leafs and go elsewhere, and it's like, well, that guy didn't do that here. So much of this sometimes is just personal fit, how they work within a locker room, the line that they're playing on, the culture that's being created, and a lot of that has to do with what is instilled by the coach, how the coach treats them, how the coach operates, because some of that, one coach may just fit better with a player than the player has dealt with in the past. Like, it's 100% going to be on Craig Berube to find ways to get that out of these guys. And like, one thing I did enjoy was, I think it was the Nasty Knuckles podcast where Craig Berube went on and he talked about William Nylander. And I don't know about you, but I kept getting this vibe all season that Nylander seemed the most comfortable he has here in Toronto. And I think a lot of that had to do with playing under Berube, and Berube never really said anything all year. And then on that podcast, he goes on there and he's like, I love William Nylander. Like, I love this player. These are the conversations we had. And he basically explained how much swagger Willie has and the character he has and how the two of them interact. And it just kind of shows you, like, Berube will give him a little pee-pee whack if he needs it, but he's not going to do this stuff to take away his confidence like maybe you'd seen before. And we saw William Nylander score 45 goals this year and elevate his play and be one of the best players on the Leafs throughout the regular season. Now, fell off in the playoffs there a little bit, but we saw that change in him. I think a lot of that had to do with Berube. So maybe this is another guy. Pezzetta comes here. Berube was a tough guy. St. Louis was tough, but he was not a tough guy like Berube in that style. Maybe that just kind of opens things up for Pezzetta, where he sees the game differently because of the way that Berube is able to explain it to him.
You know what? There is a certain fragility to some of the big boys on the Maple Leafs, and you're so right. It just always seems like the guy to get called out is one of the best players in Willie Nylander. I can count maybe on 3 fingers how many times the captain, Matthews or Marner, or I mean, even to an extent Tavares, it always seems to be Nylander who's the guy who's called up by the coach. Maybe he's got a tough exterior. Maybe he doesn't care. But, yeah, I was snickering, too, when I saw Berube. He's like, he's a beauty. Like, he loves him.
Yeah.
And I love that they're fostering that type of relationship. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Got a bit of an issue here. So, Tinas Luke Cobbler, the Leafs development camp happening right now, he's wearing the number 33. And again, the Italian contingent continues. It just reminds me way too much of Luca Caputi, man. What are we doing here, Zach?
Luca Caputi. I was going to say Freddie the Goat.
Okay, Goat too. But no, I kept with the Italian theme today.
Yeah, I get it.
What do you make of this?
Frederick Gauthier first that I thought about.
Yeah, the GOAT. What happened to him?
Yeah.
Per Leafs PR, Easton Cowan and Landon Sim will not be skating at the team's development camp, but are taking part in off-ice activities. Additional rest after they played a lot of hockey during the London Knights Memorial Cup run. Wasn't that 2 months ago?
And aren't they like 18? Respectfully, like, don't you have legs under you?
Pretty good stamina at 18, eh, Zachy boy?
I get it if it's like they're throwing me and Alberga into like a morning skate and they're like, yeah, go again. I'm going to tell them, like, piss off. Like, I played with you in that one double header and we went to go out on the ice for the second one. I'm like, holy shit, man, I'm going to pass away. Like, that's a little different. That's because we had 23 vodka sodas out the night before, and then we're trying to battle it out. But these guys are peak condition, and you just played 60-game season in the OHL. I mean, I guess Cowan went to World Juniors, and then he went on the playoff run. But, like, the NHL is 82 games. It's going to 84. And then the playoffs, you need to win 16 games to win the cups. You could potentially play like 14, 21, 28 games, quick math, that you could have maximum when you go into the playoffs extra. We're already doing load management.
I'll be honest. I have no clue who Landon Sim is, but I know who Easton Cowan is, and he's going to vie for a spot on that Maple Leafs roster. But yeah, Pontus Holmberg's the one that gets me. I didn't see that coming. I knew he was RFA this summer, but he signs with Tampa, 2 years times $1.55 million. That's a pretty good paycheck for him. Matt Murray signs in Seattle, another departure from the roster. But it's interesting too, because if you look from a body count, there's not much turnover so far. Like, they really haven't lost much in the grand scheme of things. Like, I know Marner is a massive void. We're going to talk about that. How do you fill that hole? Is it filled already? Is it somebody internal? Do you have to look external? But from a body count, look, the blue line is the same blue line. The decor, the blue line, the crease is the same conversation. And a lot of the forwards right now are the same guys. Like, they're effectively, to an extent, running it back. Again, very, very early, but I think maybe we can extend the conversation into that. Like, is there a candidate for you that, let's call a spade, 102 points. You don't just cover that easily. It's got to be, a bunch of guys fill in that gap, that hole. But is there somebody who stands out for you, who can step up, elevate, and play on that top line right now with Nyes and Matthews?
There's not really anybody right now within this roster that I think you're going to have to go out and find somebody. I think you probably start and try Matias Machelli based on what you have right now. I'm just basing it off of the guys you have.
Yeah.
On Puckpedia, if you go there and look at the roster, that's probably the guy that you try. He's played in the NHL. I would pick him over a guy like Easton Cowan right now, just based on the fact that he has played NHL games. He does have experience. He's shown promise. Maybe he can find it. If it doesn't work, then who cares? Bump him down the lineup. I think, though, you need to be willing to experiment with stuff here. I was looking at it before and talking to producer Vic about it this morning and sending stuff back and forth was, there's this huge concern about what is Matthews' production going to be like without Mitch Marner here. Well, I think that the idea of Matthews being able to produce off of Mitch Marner has been, overdone. It's been over sensationalized, where it's like Mitch Marner is this magician who creates so much and opens so much up for Matthews, and he's the one who's putting it on a platter for Auston Matthews to be able to score. That's not necessarily the case. Yes, he contributed to a lot of it. A lot of it was actually on power play, where you have an extra man out on the ice, and it's not necessarily at 5-on-5, where Auston Matthews is one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. Auston Matthews scored 40 goals in his rookie season as an 18-year-old, or maybe he was a 19-year-old, I guess, at that point, playing in the NHL, playing with Zach Hyman and William Nylander. It wasn't with Mitch Marner. He obviously then did get opportunities with him later, but even without Mitch Marner in the lineup, Auston Matthews has been able to produce. It's not necessarily been a concern. So I think you're more so just looking for a guy who can fill a role. I think if you go into this trying to approach this season as filling 102 points, you're looking at it the wrong way. You're not trying to fill a hole of 102 points. You're trying to make the team better. And part of the problem that you had before was that you were looking at these pillars of, here's a guy who scores 102 points. Here's a guy who scores 50, 60 goals. Here's a guy who gets 40 goals. Here's another guy who gets 40 goals. And you're like, each one of these guys is the main basis of what we're doing. They weren't building a team. It's time to throw that out. Mitch is gone. You got to build a team here now. Maybe you separate Matthews and Nylander and you filter guys in throughout, but it's just making sure that no matter what you're doing, you're getting the most out of everybody in the lineup. So there's a long way to say I don't necessarily think it matters. I think you got to be willing to try guys. And again, I still think you need to explore the trade market, but I just don't think it's like that big of a deal. And Machelli is probably the guy that I'm looking for to go into that spot to start the season.
In support of Sick Kids, Shane Brom has a suggestion for us with this super chat. What would it take to pry Alex Tuch from Buffalo? I was sitting up late last night like I normally do. Buffalo's not making the playoffs for a 15th straight year. They're dog shit, man. And they got worse this summer. They traded JJ Peterka. You can say what you want about Michael Kesselring. Yeah, nice right-handed shooting guy. And Josh Stone, who's going to be closer to his father, who's still an AGM here in Toronto. But they're light years away from being a competitive team. And I just wonder if maybe they go into rebuild 17.0 here. And Alex Tuch is a guy who I think checks a lot of boxes, who can make a lot of sense. But naturally, I understand this conversation about making a trade, and you have to now because nobody's left on the UFA market. But what are you prepared to give up is the question. You really don't have first rounders. So in my world, you're looking at two guys specifically. One we just talked about, load management and development camp right now, Easton Cowan. And then the other is Ben Danford. Like, what are the Maple Leafs prepared to give up in a trade is my question. And to that point, on the roster, is there anybody any team would want? Like, I put this out there a couple days ago. The Leafs are actively pursuing a way to get rid of David Kampf and Calle Jarnkrok. Right now, no bites, no takes. I mean, that's why I'm not sold in this whole idea that the Maple Leafs are going to somehow find a way to get a guy who's going to be a difference maker and play with Matthews and Nyes. I just don't think they have much to give up here.
It is tough. Look, I don't have an answer for you. I'm willing to speculate on it, and it's like Morgan Rielly seems to be the easiest one, but he's got the no trade, no move, and I think he wants to stay. So then I think that's when you start to kind of have that conversation where you're like, look, we're not going to get backed into the corner Mitch just put us in. Where would you be willing to go if you would? Okay, now let's work from there, and maybe you've got a couple teams that maybe he's willing to go to that you could start calling on and seeing what their interest is. It's really difficult again. And the problem that I have here, Nick, with the Brandon Carlo conversation is I actually really like him. And what happens if you trade Brandon Carlo? You're going to go and look for another Brandon Carlo now. Like, you're going to need another one. Now, to credit Treliving, he's done a really good job of identifying defensemen who are out there who maybe aren't the name yet. Maybe they're just a player who's before he gets that level, and then he brings them into a system for a coach, whatever. Again, back to how you talked about how a coach can get the most out of a player, but maybe he brings in that guy and then it works. You know, you talk about the Kachuk deal. He got Huberdeau and Weegar. But maybe it is shopping at Carlo and seeing what you can get in return if you can find a way to get a defenseman back. Maybe it is looking and seeing if Morgan Rielly is willing to go. And then the one that I'm not as comfortable with, because we just had the first season where we felt the most comfort from start to finish that we've had in probably like 20 years, maybe you explore trading a goaltender. Maybe somebody like the Edmonton Oilers needs to move off of a forward because they desperately need a goaltender. You know, like maybe that's something that's out there as well. But like, the reality is the Leafs are in a tough spot right now. There's no way around it. It's the truth. Like, you don't have too much to give. There's not too much that's out there. You're kind of stuck in no man's land a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
No, it's fair. And I put this out there the other day. Like, I think it's so funny. For a decade, people have been bitching and moaning and complaining how the Leafs never have cap space. Now they have cap space, and they want them just to, like, my buddy's like trying to force feed signings to me yesterday. I forgot who he's bringing up. I'm like, why would they do that? Like, if you don't see a right fit, don't do it. Yeah. Like, there's a trade deadline next year. There's maybe somebody he's pissed off and he wants out from his team, like in training camp. Maybe there's a contract dispute. I just think it gives you that flexibility to do something down the road. And I think there's this general impatience in the mind of a hockey mind. And I'm the same way, where I want it now. And I think the long game is vital. I think patience is vital right now for the executives and Brad Treliving and the decision-making process. I think the problem too is a lot of teams in the same boat as the Maple Leafs with the cap going up. They got a lot of cap space, and teams even like San Jose and Chicago really haven't done much here in the offseason. So certainly something to monitor. I mean, there's not really many names out there right now too. I'm seeing via social media, and thank you to producer Vic for getting this to us, New Jersey numbers. We're at that point of the offseason already. It's July 3rd, but Nicolas Waugh will wear number 55, Michael Pezzetta 65, and your boy Matthias Machelli will wear number 63. Since we're on the Waugh conversation, we talked about it earlier on, obviously the sign and trade with Mitch Marner. Where do you see him fitting in? Like, in my mind at least, maybe because he shoots right, Marner shot right, I wouldn't be stunned if Waugh at some point in time got a look. If they, assuming nobody's significance is brought in to be a top six fixture, if a guy like Waugh at least gets a look in camp with the big boys in the top line. I think the one thing I noticed from watching a lot of Vegas hockey the last couple of years is that Waugh's very versatile, and Jack Eichel was banged up quite a bit. William Karlsson definitely missed a bunch of games the last 3 seasons with Nick Waugh there. He was able to elevate and produce in significant roles. So I'm really, really high, maybe higher than most people on Nick Waugh, and I like the value in that contract. 2 years left at $3 million.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. I do really like Nick Waugh. I'll back that 100%. I'm in support of Nick Waugh. I like the return of that. I mean, look, guys, the alternative here, and when people are going to say, you like the return of that? Like, we got Mitch Marner from Nick Waugh. Like, the alternative was we got nothing. So, yes, I like the return of that. I think he's a really good third-line player, a really, really good third-line center, which is, in all honesty, an upgrade over what we've had, because we've had questionable third-line centers and guys that we weren't sure if they could fill that spot. Like, you think about the fact that we went out and got Scott Laughton at the trade deadline because there was not certainty that Max Domi was going to be able to play 3C, and it felt like he was kind of not living up to those expectations. So you go out and acquire Scott Laughton to do it, and then he came here and it was never really a fit. So he goes to 4C, and he was really, really good as your 4C. But again, it leaves that opening of the 3C. So that's the spot I see him in. Yeah. I would prefer if JT had to slide down and you got somebody to go into that second center position. But for me, it's still Nick Waugh at 3C, and that's kind of how you slot out your centers. And I think that gives you a lot of depth down the middle. It's picking the spots around them that you're going to have some trouble doing. And as I just got a text from producer Vic, I'll just quote it. Like, Vic, you're shouting this out as Nick asked me the question. We never talk about Willie getting that spot, ... ever. I personally would rather have Willie separated out onto the second line and give yourself depth of attack. That's what Florida has. They have depth of attack. Edmonton, for the most part, they split up McDavid and Draisaitl and only go to them when need be. I would rather have that, because if you put Willie up to the first line and he plays first line right wing, you're going with like this top tier first line, and then what? Like, now your second line is John Tavares, Calle Yarncroke, Bob McMahon, Max Domi. I don't know. Name your guy who fits in there, and you're kind of looking at it and going, holy shit, like, what line is that second line beating? So that's my pushback on William Nylander fitting in there, unless you go out and find somebody who's like a primo top six that can fit in here and provide that layer of attack with Willie going up. Otherwise, I don't see it.
Can't forget, too, as mentioned earlier on, there's going to be some names who are available next season. I know there's speculation out there with Calgary. We'll see how they do. They were close to a playoff spot this year. Maybe it's not the same story next year. Maybe a Kadri becomes available. Maybe a Blake Coleman, who I think is an expiring contract next year, becomes available. So I think you kick that can down the road when it comes to the center ice position, where we had this conversation leading up to the Tavares signing. And in the best case scenario, he's your 3C. But I think it's fair to say he's going to start the year as a 2C. I would do that too. I'd go Matthews. I would go Tavares. I would go Waugh. And then I would go Scotty Laughton 4C. And I think you're in a pretty good spot. Max Domi, I would put him with Nicolas Waugh at least to start. There's going to be different variations of this, but you're trying to think of combos. And I think the good thing is there's different guys who can play center, but I think from the Domi standpoint, I'd like to see him start on the wing. And for some reason, I know Vic's been saying this for a while, Max Domi sticks out. He doesn't really have a fit on this roster right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. He's in a weird spot where he can't really play center over any of the guys that you have right now. He's not going to take Nick Waugh or John Tavares or Austin Matthews spots. The only guy I think he could really compete with would be, or maybe make things uncomfortable for, would be Laughton, but maybe then Laughton bumps up to third line wing or something like that. But it's just weird looking around, because what he does and what his money is coming in at, his cap hit is coming in at, there's not like a clear defined role for him. He's not a guy that you're like, well, he plays on the power play, because there's other guys that are going ahead of him. You know, you look at Nyes and Nylander and Matthews and Tavares. Those are at least four. Who knows what you do with the fifth spot here now? Probably goes back to Morgan Rielly, so he's not really in that. Probably goes on your second power play unit, I guess, but traditionally in Toronto, the first unit plays 90% of the power play, and then he doesn't really work at wing. It's kind of always been uncomfortable, so they've had to put him back into center positions. And then again, like, he worked with Matthews So maybe that's where they go and they try that.
Nice Matthews, Domi.
I don't mind that, honestly. Like, I think that would be okay. But even when I say that, it's like I don't mind that. Not, oh yeah, I love that. I think that that's a perfect fit. And it kind of sucks because honestly, I love Max Domi. I love the fact that he loves being a Maple Leaf and loves being here. And like I saw Steven Lorentz on with you guys. I had buddies text me and be like, man, I loved everything this guy said on the interview with the boys yesterday. Like he just oozes like passion and confidence. And maybe that's like ridiculous here as Leafs fans, but like guys buying in and wanting to be here, especially with what we just saw from somebody leaving, it makes it like, wow, these guys love being here and want to be here. But it's just such an uncomfortable spot where, like, what does he do? Because he can't really play wing that well, but there's no center position left for him.
Unfortunately, they got like 4 or 5 guys caught in that threshold where it's like, I think in a perfect world, maybe they're not on your roster. I think Domi's the least of the issues. Like, I would definitely give him another crack next year. But guys like Yarncroke and Kampf and Reaves, like, if you want to turn over that roster, you have to find a way to get rid of those guys, create that cap flexibility, but it just doesn't seem like much is out there right now. And that's why I think the slow and steady game wins the day. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Remaining UFAs, assuming, Zach, that I think Nikolai Ehlers could make his decision today. It's not going to be Toronto. I'll just put it out there. My best guess is Carolina or Washington. Remaining names, Matt Grzelcyk, Jack Roslovic, Jeff Skinner, Victor Olofsson sort of intrigues me. Played with Vegas last year. Dmitry Orlov, Anthony Beauvillier, any of those guys? Would you take a stab at any of those guys? I guess Pacioretty's on that list too. We saw him at the Brick
Dmitry Orlov just signed.
Did he?
Right now. Yep, right now. San Jose, 2 years, 6.5 per. So that one literally happened right now, as you said that.
Gotcha.
So he's gone. But Olofsson intrigues me a little bit. He had some success when he played with Jack Eichel in Vegas. He had some success when he played with him in Buffalo as well. He's kind of shown that he could play that. Like, he's not a top-end talent guy, but he's a guy that can play with top-end talent. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of those guys that just, like, fits. Like the one that always stands out to me and I will always go back to in my head, maybe it's an unfair comparison or maybe I'm not doing justice to the guys I'm about to name, but Sidney Crosby played with Pascal Dupuis and Chris Kunitz. And it's not me taking a shot at those guys, but it's the fit, right? Like, sometimes I think about and refer back to, you know how in NHL, like the video game, when you get the synergies and now all of a sudden these guys combine together and they play together because this guy's specialty works with this and this. In many ways, that is reality. And those things can just work together. You know, that's why Nyes works so well with like an Austin Matthews, because what he does complements Matthews and vice versa. Now you just need to find the pieces that fit. I think Olofsson could be another guy that you kind of take a swing on and you're like, okay, let's see where you go in here, because you've shown spurts in the past where you can play with top-end talent. That's probably the guy that sticks out the most of the remaining players. But, like, even then, Nick, that's me reaching a little bit and being like, I guess he fits.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I love Max Pacioretty last year too, and Olofsson and Pacioretty would stick out for me. But it's like I'm not in any rush. I said this the other day. I think because of how peculiar the market was this year, a lot of guys who normally would be like PTO signings were signing on day one of free agency. Like, it's been one of those off seasons, one of those bizarre years and stretches, and I think you have to keep that in mind. And even Olofsson, I would just play the waiting game. Like, I don't know if he's a difference maker. I know last year in Vegas, he was banged up, had a hot stretch to start the year, played with Eichel for quite a bit of time. But, like, I think to play the guessing game when you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and you're trying to win a Stanley Cup is dangerous territory. And you just have to be very, very smart with the way you deploy this salary cap moving forward. Some of the RFA names, by the way, Gabe Vilardi, Marco Rossi, Mason McTavish, Dmitry Voronkov.
That's the one.
Would intrigue. Yeah, like he's an
Mason
enticing name. That one?
Yeah. That I don't know if you were talking about Voronkov. You said after,
Voronkov,
but McTavish is the one for me that I think is really intriguing. I think he's got a high ceiling. I think he's a heavy body. you can't get him on your offer sheet, or you can't get him for the price of what an offer sheet would be, because I think he comes in approximately like $7 million-ish, which puts him at like a first and a third rounder, which the Leafs don't have. But you could pursue him in a trade route to get his RFA rights and then sign him from there. That one is one that really, really intrigues me. I don't know how you swing it, what goes back the other way. I don't even know if Treliving has that interest in him, but that interests me a lot. Mason McTavish is one that I'll be circling on, and I wouldn't be surprised if Treliving is as well, because we've heard this guy calls on everybody.
Yeah, no, that it's true. And Voronkov's the guy for me in Columbus. I watched quite a bit of Jackets hockey this year. He sort of came out of nowhere, but an elite sniper, played predominantly in that top six, plays the wing. I think he fits the bill too. I think right now, obviously the priority is a top six forward. I think they'd be happy if it was a center or a winger. I'm with you on McTavish. Again, I just don't know if the Leafs have enough to get that trade across the finish line. I mean, if you're not dealing Danford or Cowan, like assuming those are the big two pieces that teams would want. I think it's unfortunate to say too, like Dennis Hildeby's stock took a massive turn in the wrong direction this year. A year ago, I think a lot of people were very high on Hildeby, and he came off a bad year. And so I don't know who's looking to trade for the guy right now, unfortunately. Like, he'd be the other guy I would think about. Everybody's always looking for goaltending. You look at that guy, he's a monster, but just didn't have a good year. And that's unfortunate because you're looking for assets to trade right now.
Yeah, the Akhtamov kid, it seems like he did kind of bump his stock up, which is nice. Yeah. But, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Hildeby very quickly lost his Hildebeest title when he came up and played. Did. I think I mean, the lasting impression I had of him from last year was the sunburn on the bench. But
oh man, we saw him in the press box. I'm like, Vic, this guy was at the pool longer than you and I, and we're media members. Yeah. But he knew his role. But I think he felt that way and looked that way because he was thrust into action because your boy, who's now a Seattle Kraken, just wasn't well enough to back up.
Yeah, it would be, so for me, I don't know. It's like Akhtamov maybe helps with that. Maybe Hildeby starts the season a lot better, and then his value goes up, or somebody goes, oh shit, we have to have that guy. Or maybe the Leafs look at him and say, we actually trust that this guy can fill in, and then one of their goalies goes out, like Stolarz or Wall goes out the door. I don't know. Maybe that opens the door for something there. It's going to be a waiting game. I unfortunately, I think Leafs fans are going to have to be patient this season. I don't expect it's two-parter. I'll say this. I don't think what we have right now is what we go into game one of the regular season with. I think more is going to come. Whether it's a huge move that nobody expects, or if it's just tinkering, minor trade, minor player added, Kampf, Yarncroke gone. I don't know how they shake it up. But I don't think what you have right now is what you go into game one of the regular season with. And then two, I highly doubt that what you start game one with to what you finish at the trade deadline with will be the same either. I think they're going to be active and looking to change things up this year because there's just not many options that you could have gone out there and signed. And to your point, by the way, like there's going to be teams that are looking to change things up. I specifically here look at Nashville. I think they're in an ugly, gross spot right now. I wonder if there's guys there who look around and regret what they've done signing those deals that they have. And I wonder if Nashville regrets that. I look at the Islanders, and I think they're another team here that you might look at. And not that they regret stuff, but they feel like they need to head in a new direction. They had the number 1 overall pick. They grabbed at 16 and 17. Like, they're going in a younger, newer direction. Lou's gone. It's just it's a refresh on the franchise. So maybe now Barzal needs to go out. And I'm not necessarily saying you can go and get Barzal, but maybe he needs to go out, and now maybe other pieces need to go out with them. Maybe Anders Lee is done in Long Island. Maybe Casey Cizikas is done in Long Island. Maybe there's defensemen who are done there who are older players. Like, you could just be looking at a refresh where some guys come out, and those are the teams that I'd start to look at during this year.
Probably a topic for another day because I do want to wrap here, but a bit stunned we're sitting here on July 3rd and Nick Robertson, like we really haven't talked about this guy at all here in the offseason. He's still a Leaf, and Doesn't sound like he's going anywhere. Like, it sounds like they're gonna run it back again with Nick Robertson. And maybe it's too early and too premature to say something like that, but you can't forget who the GM is. I think Brad Treliving, the one thing I've learned early on is he is very patient. You looked at last year, it felt like how he was manipulating the cap and the system the first 25 games where it felt like they were pinched. They had to make a move, and then somebody couldn't go, and then it lasted longer. Like, I think there's so many twists and turns and moving factors, and if I had to guess and prognosticate, because I just don't know what they're going to give up in a trade, I think your best case scenario is maybe some PTOs. I mean, they struck gold with Max Pacioretty last year. You know, maybe it's a Beauvillier, maybe it's an Olofsson, maybe it's a Jeff Skinner, a Roslovic. Like, I think that's your best bet, because I think, to my point earlier on, the long game is vital. If you have cap space around the trade deadline, I think you're sitting pretty. You obviously have to get to the playoffs. You have to put yourself in position to get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I don't think this team is as significantly worse without Marner as people think, especially when you add Machelli into the mix. You have the same blue line. You have the same crease. And you add Nicolas Waugh. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I had like 4 or 5 different people text me after you and I did the Machelli trade video, and they sent the quote, "the left-handed Mitch Marner." That's all they sent to me, and I just laughed. Like, yep, that is what Nick said.
I think he's a poor man's Mitch Marner. I do. I watched a lot of Machelli, talking to a bunch of people too. They're like, that's not, inaccurate. I think he's a really good playmaker. He's obviously not Mitch Marner. He's not good defensively. He's not the total package, but he is a jitterbug out there. He flies. He dances. Like, I think people are going to be impressed with that name too. And I love the low risk, high reward type play. I like that there's incentive in the deal too. If he gets to 51 points, they make the playoffs. It becomes a second. If it becomes a second, I think Leafs fans are going to feel very happy, weirdly enough, with the pick going up. But that means he's having a really good year, and the Leafs probably having a good year. Getting back to the last call here, whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Going back to the Blue Jays well tonight, see them at plus money to complete the sweep here against the New York Yankees. Chris Bassett's on the hill. So give me the Blue Jays money line tonight, Zach.
All right. I'm looking at my little props tool right now to see what I got, and I'm looking at home runs. Bet365, if you want to take a swing on somebody for a dinger tonight, Tyler Heineman plus 1,500. So you know if he's going to play. He's the other catcher. And the other one is Nathan Lucas plus 1,200.
Oh, your boy. Okay.
Yeah, take some swings on those ones. I'll bet them right now. But, yeah, why not? Why not us? Those are the ones that just stood out to me right now on the Blue Jays.
I like that. Chris Johnson just wrapping here. Something to keep an eye on. Once Nikolai Ehlers makes his free agent decision, there's a sense it could spur trade activity among the teams who fall short in the pursuit of the talented wingers. So who knows? Maybe you land in Portugal tomorrow and you find out about somebody becoming a Toronto Maple Leaf. I do not think they're in Ehlers at all. Like, he wants to go to a warm climate. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Quiet
I feel
market.
good for that guy. Yeah, it's just it doesn't line up. He's a great player. I don't even think he fits the DNA of what the Maple Leafs are looking for. So we'll see where Ehlers signs. But thanks for this, Zach.
I got a name
great
for
job.
You.
And
I'll throw out.
Go ahead.
Before we go.
Yeah.
Jonathan Marchessault.
Last I heard, he doesn't want to go to Toronto. That's why I stopped talking about it.
All right. Wrap the show.
I don't know if you saw the report recently too. I think he'd only wave to a no state tax team. You got to remember too, the money's vital with these guys too. It is. I'm sorry to say.
The state tax doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It does not matter. So yeah, I don't think Marchessault is an option. They're gonna have to be creative, and I think it's gonna take some time here. But Zach, have a great time, man. Great haircut. Enjoy that beach. Enjoy that time in Portugal and Europe. And I'm curious to talk to you after you come back if you think it's still the same sun. I think that's your line. Oh, there you go. The same sun with Zack Phillips. Are those the 1A shades you're bringing or what?
Yes, they are. Got new shades. I got like a whole new wardrobe, linen pants. I got new
shit.
shoes. Like I was told I needed to get clothes for Europe. So throw out the old wardrobe. We're getting Euro clothes. I'm ready to go.
This guy's a stud. Told the wife, or his wife wanted to go to Europe, and he's like, you know what, just pick where you want to go, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Typical guy. I love that, dude. Yeah, attaboy. So have a great time. Enjoy the drinks, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
There you have it. Weekend at Bernie's with Zack Phillips. I hope you've watched that movie before. Have you?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Go watch Weekend at Bernie's. People in the chat will understand my reference. Have a great time. That's Zack Phillips at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And also don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Jay Rosehill back in the mix for the Friday edition as we continue to sift through the latest news and notes surrounding your Toronto Maple Leafs. Thank you to producer Vic. For Zack Phillips, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.